Good evening, students. I'm Dr. Divya from TeenEinstein. I think we'll start the class. Other students are there to join, I think. Anyway, we'll start. So we have already completed 3 chapters from 11th standard syllabus, right? Now, as per student suggestion only, we are moving to 12th standard. 12th standard portions will start. So now we are moving to the first chapter of 12th standard. Chapter 1, Reproduction in Organism. This is our first chapter of 12th standard, Reproduction in Organism. So all of you know, in biology we are talking about living organism, right? It's about living organism, and all organisms can or they live, they reproduce, and finally they'll die. So organisms will live, reproduce, and they'll die. So reproduction is a vital process, right? Without reproduction, organisms cannot survive. They cannot survive for a long time. And each organism or individual that makes the next generation or next progeny by asexual or sexual method, right? Next generation, how they produce? Reproduction by asexual or sexual methods. So in this chapter, we are going to learn about the reproduction of organism by asexual methods and sexual methods. So reproduction is the main process, or it is a vital process, and without reproduction, organisms can't survive or they can't produce the next generation. Or without reproduction, there won't be the next generation of organism, right? So without reproduction, that can't survive or next generation won't be formed. So each organism forms its next progeny by asexual method or sexual method. So sexual method and asexual method of reproduction, that only we are going to learn in this chapter. So let me give an introduction about reproduction and life. Everyone knows that all organisms, they live for a certain period, right? There is a period between the birth and the death of an organism. That period is called as the lifespan, or the lifespan of the organism. So what is lifespan? The period between the birth and death of an organism, that is called as lifespan. Lifespan of organism. And for each organism, this is different. The lifespan of each species is different. Each type of organism will be having different lifespan, and this lifespan, it is determined by what? It is determined by heredity. See, for human beings, they are having different lifespan, but for dogs, cats, all are having different lifespan. So this is determined, ultimately it is determined by heredity. See, human beings, they are having a minimum years of lifespan. Before that, some people may die, and after that also some people may live. So there is an average lifespan for everything. So the lifespan of each species varies. And this lifespan, it is determined by what? It is determined by heredity. And the limit the limit of lifespan of each species, and that limit of each lifespan of each species, it is determined by heredity. And what is the concept of this lifespan? What is that lifespan means, or what you can understand from the concept of lifespan? Anyone can tell what is that concept of lifespan? Means an individual whose existence has a definite beginning, and there is a proper beginning and there is a proper ending for the life of an individual or individual organism. All organisms have they are having a particular or proper beginning and proper ending. So the concept of lifespan means individual whose existence has a definite beginning and ending. Or there is a starting point. There is an exact starting point and end point for a life of an individual organism. That is called as lifespan. So in the case of animals, birth is considered as the beginning of lifespan. So what is that? Lifespan means the period of time between the birth and death of an organism. It is nothing but the time between birth and death of an organism. That from species to species, that time period, it varies, and it is determined by heredity. So the concept of lifespan, what is that? The concept, there is a proper or a definite beginning and end. That is called as concept of lifespan. There is a proper beginning and end. For each species or each organism, there is a proper beginning and proper end point. That is called as lifespan. So birth is considered, birth is the beginning of lifespan. In the case of animals, birth, that is called as the beginning of lifespan. But in the case of plants, we can't say like that, right? So in the case of animals, birth, that is the starting point of lifespan. Is it clear? And next, this lifespan varies from few days to several thousand years. So you can see in the chart, you can see so many organisms with their lifespan. I have mentioned here the lifespan. In the chart, you can see different organisms, right? And the lifespan of organism, it varies from few days to, lifespan of organism, that is varies, or the organism is having different lifespan, and in some case it is few days, and in some case it is few hours, and in some other case it is so many years. You can see here. The organisms with different lifespan, you can see in this chart. So lifespan of organisms are, it's not always related with, or it is not having connection with their size and complexity. One organism that may live 1 year, and another one may live for 30 years, or sometimes some organism will live, you can see in this chart itself, so many different lifespans of all organisms. So some may live for 1 year, some may live for 20 years or 25 years or 30 years, and some other organisms, they may live for 100 years. Whatever may be, that organism will die. That's for sure, that there is a death for the organism. I said there is a starting point. In the case of animals, birth is considered as the beginning point, and death also. See, one organism, after 20 years, some organisms, some species may die after 20 years, some organism may die after 1 day, some after 100 years. So whatever may be the lifespan, there is a death or the end point for the living organism. But what is happening in the case of single-celled organism? Anyone is having any idea? What is happening in the case of single-celled organism? In the case of single-celled organism, in single-cell organism, that organism will grow. Like all other organisms, that single-celled organism also will grow and that will attain maturity. That single cell also will attain maturity, and after attaining maturity, what will happen? It will undergo division. Means that single cell that will act as a parent cell and it will undergo division, and the parent cell will give rise to new daughter cells. But there is no death. There is no death of that parent cell, right? There is no death in the case of that parent cell, but it will continue the life as the daughter cells. That is what happening in the case of single cell. There is no proper death. That parent cell, that individual parent cell, that will divide into two daughter cells and it will continue the life. So there is no proper death in the case of individual cells. So the single celled organism, we can say they are immortal. They don't have death or there is no end point in the case of single cell organism. We can't say that that organism is died because there is no death. It is forming two daughter cells and it is continuing the life. So lifespan that varies from few days to several thousand years, and lifespan of organism are not necessarily correlated with their size and complexity. There is no relation with the size and complexity and lifespan. Okay. So whatever be the lifespan, the death of the organism is sure. Surely there is a death for an organism. The lifespan, it may be 10 years, 5 years, 1 day, 50 days or 50 years or whatever may be, there is a death for that organism. But single-celled organisms, they'll grow, they'll attain maturity, and after attaining maturity, what is happening? They will undergo division. So after dividing, it is becoming the daughter, it is becoming, or that cell, single cell is becoming daughter cells. That means that is continuously living. There is no death. There is no end point in the case of single cell organism. That's why we are saying they are immortal. Got it? And next, in the list, lifespan of this living organisms are mentioned. You can see here. The organisms are there. Note down these things. So many MCQs will come for NEET exam. So I said, whatever may be the lifespan, there is a certain death or death is definitely going to happen. So no individual is immortal except single-celled organism. Means there is no natural death in those single-celled organisms. What is happening in them? They are dividing and they are forming two new individuals. That's all. The first individual is not dying, but it is getting divided into two new individuals. And that continues the life. So here you can note down the different maximum lifespan of each organism. Here some microorganism I said few minutes to few hours. In the case of yeast and all, just 90 minutes. That's all. It will divide into daughter cells. Mayfly, 1 day. And here dog, 25 years. And rice plant, in the case of plants, 4 months, rice plant. The total duration of that plant, 4 months. Cat, 35 to 40 years. This is the average lifespan, average calculated lifespan of each organism. And elephant, 60 to 75 years. Then parrot, 140 years. banyan tree, 200 to 300 years. So all these things, you can note down the organism and maximum lifespan of each organism. So next, let's move to reproduction. What is reproduction? It's a biological process by which an organism reproduces and it is forming offsprings which are biologically similar to the parent organism. Right? Reproduction is a biological process in that the offspring which are produced will be biologically similar to the parent organism. And the offspring, they grow, mature, and they, after growth, after attaining maturity, those organisms also, they will produce new offsprings. So that is a cyclic process. There is a cycle of birth, growth, and death. Right? So reproduction enables the continuity of the species generation after generation. So without reproduction, there is no continuity or there is no existence for a particular species. Is it clear? Or you are getting confused? What is happening in reproduction? If without reproduction, there is no continuity for any species. Correct? See, if I'm there, I don't have any kids, that's all. That's the end of my family, right? Same like that, without reproduction, there is no continuity of the species. So, every generation will produce, or the formation of each generation is happening with reproduction only. So, the genetic variation is created and inherited during reproduction. So, during reproduction, what is happening? Genetic variations are happening. Genetic variations are getting created in each species, and this become a vital process without which species cannot survive. So without reproduction, one species cannot survive. So it's a biological process by which an organism reproduces and it forms a offspring which is biologically similar to the organism. So the organism which is produced after reproduction, that will be biologically similar to the parental organism. So what is reproduction? It is a biological process. In reproduction, what is happening? An organism reproduces or it is producing another organism and that offspring is biologically similar to the parental organism. That is called as reproduction. And this, after the formation of that new organism or the new offspring, that also will grow. That new offspring also will attain maturity. And then what is happening? That organism also produces new offsprings. So it is a cyclic process, a cycle of birth. First, it will take birth, then it will grow, then it will attain maturity, it will produce the next generation, then death. So reproduction enables the continuity of species. After each generation, that forms the continuity. Or because of reproduction, what is happening? A species is existing. If one species it is not reproducing, for the next generation, there won't be any individual from that particular species, right? So during reproduction, what is happening? Genetic variations are creating, or genetic variations are created during reproduction. So without reproduction, a species or an organism cannot survive or that cannot exist. So this reproduction is a biological process, and in this, an organism produces an offspring, and this produced offspring will be having biological similarity with the parent organism. Got it? So what are the basic features of reproduction? Main process of reproduction is cell division, right? Either it is asexual reproduction or sexual reproduction, whatever may be, the cell division is the main point. So due to the cell division, that chromosome division also takes place, or the cell will grow and after attaining maturity, that cell will get divided, and the chromosome which is present in the cell, that also will get divided equally to the daughter cells. There is an equal division of chromosomes also. During cell division, that is also happening, and the cellular material, all this also will get duplicated, and all cell organelles that will get duplicated before cell division. Cell organelles will get divided along with chromosomes also. Then after all this, division of cell organelles, division of chromosome, all this takes place, and after that, the reproduction, that is the completion of reproduction. Mainly, how many types of reproductions are there? Reproduction, mainly it is of two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Is it clear? There are two types of reproduction, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So what is asexual reproduction? What is asexual reproduction? There is no gamete formation in the case of asexual reproduction, or in this reproductive process, there is no gamete formation. There won't be any gamete formation in the case of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the mode of reproduction in which a new individual is developed without the formation of gametes or without the fusion of gametes. In that, new individual developed from a single parent. Okay? So asexual reproduction, what is that? There is no gamete formation. Asexual reproduction, there is no sexual process in that reproduction. So there is no gamete formation in the case of asexual reproduction. And in this, how a new individual is formed? A new individual will get developed from a single parent. So there is no union of two individuals or no union of gametes. That individual, new individual, it will get developed from a single parent. The single parent will give rise to the next individual or the offspring. There is no union of gametes in asexual reproduction. I'll explain it in detail. Asexual reproduction, I said, that don't have any gamete formation. So, when an offspring is produced by a single parent, or there is no gamete formation for the purpose of reproduction, that kind of reproduction is called as asexual reproduction. The previous slide we said there is no gamete formation, there is no union of individuals, or there is no union of gametes in this for reproductive purpose. So such kind of reproduction is called as asexual reproduction. And in this method, a single individual or single parent is capable of producing offsprings. Only single parent is involved. There is no involvement of one male and female parent. Here only single parent is involved. Offspring that are produced are not only identical to one another, but they are exact copies of their parent. So what is that? Offspring will be exact copies of the parental organism. That is not only the identical one, but that is the exact copy. There is no difference between the parent and the offspring. It will be exact copy. There is no genetic variation or no size variation, nothing. It will be exact copy of the parent. And these offsprings they are also genetically identical to each other. There is no genetic difference between these parents and the offspring. The term clone is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individuals. The term clone means what? Exact copy. That is called as clone. This is used to describe the individuals which are produced after asexual reproduction, because there is no genetic variations or there is no difference between the parental organism and the offspring. It will be exactly similar. Both the parents and the offsprings all will be similar. There is no genetic changes or genetic variations. They are identical. So asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms. Here I said in single-celled organism what is happening? That single cell is attaining maturity, and after that division takes place, and there is no death. In the case of single-celled organism, there is no death. It is dividing and it is forming two new cells. But in plants and animals, the asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organism, and in plants and animals with relatively simple organization. See, plants with simple organization or simple structure. Plants and animals which are having simple structure, they are also following the asexual reproduction method. So what is that? In asexual reproduction method, when an offspring is produced by a single parent, it is called as asexual reproduction method, or there is no gamete formation for reproductive purpose. That kind of reproduction is called as asexual reproduction. And in this, the single individual or the single parent, I said only one parent is involved, only single parent is involved, and this single parent produces the offsprings. The single parent, it will grow, it will attain maturity, and it will produce offspring. And these offspring which are produced from the single parent, that are identical to the offsprings which are produced that are identical. There is no difference between the offsprings. If there are 5 offsprings, all five will be similar. There is no changes or there is no difference or variation in between these offsprings. And the offsprings are exact copies. There is no difference at all, and they are exact copies of the parent. From the parent cell, there is no difference to the offsprings. If there are 10 offsprings, all 10 will be similar. Not only that one, and these all 10 will be similar in structure and in function, everything it will be similar to the parent cell also. So there is no difference between parent cell and the individuals which are formed. And these offsprings, they will show genetically also these are similar. There is no genetical variation between this. That means all individuals produced are morphologically and genetically similar. So such individuals, they are called as clones. I mentioned one term, clone, which are morphologically and genetically similar. So what are clones? Morphologically and genetically similar individuals, they are called as clone. There is no variation. So this asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms, and it is also seen in simple plants and animals also. So asexual reproduction is simple and it is a quick method of reproduction, and the individuals produced will be morphologically and genetically, they will be similar. Is it clear? Next is different ways or different methods of asexual reproduction. So now what is asexual reproduction? Is it clear? There won't be any morphological or genetical difference between the individuals or the offsprings. So such reproduction is called as asexual reproduction. Now let's go to different types of or different ways of asexual reproduction. So there are different types, different ways of asexual reproduction: binary fission, budding, sporulation, fragmentation, and vegetative reproduction. So which are the different ways? Binary fission, budding, sporulation, fragmentation, and vegetative reproduction. So first one is binary fission. So first asexual reproduction method is binary fission. It occurs mainly in single-celled organism. Binary fission occurs mainly in single-celled organism. And the cell divides into two halves. You can see here, this is the cell, parental cell or the parent cell. Here, DNA duplication. That is one important point. DNA will get duplicated. Here you can see the duplicated DNA. And after that, DNA duplication, cytoplasm divides. Cytoplasm, it is getting divided, and then two daughter cells are produced. You can see here, parental cell, DNA duplication or karyokinesis. That is the first step. Karyokinesis means nuclear division. Karyokinesis, the division of nucleus. Then along with that or after that, what is happening? After completion of karyokinesis, next step is cytokinesis. Cytoplasmic division will take place. So cytoplasm also will get divided in. So already here nuclear division got over. So each after cytokinesis, daughter nuclei will, or daughter cells will get formed, and each daughter cells it is having different or separate nucleus because already karyokinesis got over or nuclear division got over. Then cytokinesis is happening. Then cytoplasmic division also over. Cell, that individual cell, it will produce daughter nuclei or daughter cells, and two separate cells will get formed. So in many single cell organisms, cell divides into two halves and each will rapidly grow into adult. For example, amoeba, paramecium and all, binary fission is taking place. So this type of reproduction is common among single-celled organisms including bacteria, archaea and unicellular eukaryotes. Eukaryotes such as protists and some fungi. Not in all, some fungi this is happening, binary fission. And in this, the parent body that will form or that will work as a reproductive unit that will get divided into two equal halves. You can see there two equal halves will get formed. That cell, it is becoming two equal halves. There is no random division. It is becoming two equal halves. And here karyokinesis. Karyokinesis means nuclear division is happening first and it is followed by cytokinesis, resulting in the formation of daughter cells. So first nuclear division, then cytokinesis, and finally the formation of daughter cells taking place. So binary fission occurs mainly in single-celled organisms, like organisms like amoeba and paramecium, it is happening. And this type of reproduction is common among single-celled organisms, including bacteria, archaea, and unicellular eukaryotes. So in binary fission, what is happening? Parent organism is getting divided into two halves. The parental body is becoming two equal halves, and that each half forms an independent daughter organism. So each half will form an independent daughter cell or daughter organism. That means the parent body, the whole parent body forms a reproductive unit. You can see here the whole parental body, it is working as a reproductive unit, then it is getting divided, and that continues the life as two daughter individuals. And this first, what is happening? Karyokinesis or nuclear division, and it is followed by cytokinesis. After cytokinesis, two daughter cells will be formed. You can see the two daughter cells. So depending upon the plane of division. So based on the plane of division, binary fission, it is of different types. Simple binary fission is there, longitudinal binary fission is there, and transverse binary fission is there. It's not mentioned in the slide. You can note down. There are three different types of binary fission. Simple binary fission means through any plane or any plane that will get divided. Through any plane, it will get divided. And it will form two equal halves. That is simple binary fission. What do you mean by longitudinal binary fission? Only through one longitudinal plane, it will form two equal halves. Only through one longitudinal plane. Only through that cut or through that division only, it can become two equal halves. That is called as longitudinal binary fission. And third one is transverse binary fission. Through transverse axis division takes place. So only through that division, it will become two equal halves and it will form the daughter cells. So in the case of amoeba, you can see the mother amoeba here and the pseudopodia and all, it will get pulled in, and then nuclear division takes place. In the case of amoeba, first nuclear division will take place. See, both nucleus got separated, and after that cytoplasmic division takes place. Here nuclear duplication will take place first, and after that two copies of nucleus will be present, and then cytoplasmic division takes place. You can see two copies of nuclei. Then after nuclear division only, the cytoplasmic division is taking place, and it is becoming daughter amoeba. Is it clear? Next asexual reproduction method is budding. So budding, it is asexual mode of producing new organism. It is an asexual mode of producing new organism. This is one of the asexual reproduction method, and in this, new organism is developed from a small part of the parent's body. From parent's body or a small part of the parent's body, the new organism is developed. First, a bud is formed that detaches to develop a new organism. First, one bud will form and it will grow and it will detach. It will form a new organism. And it is separated from the parent organism when it is getting matured. See, first bud will form, then it will attain maturity, then it will get detached from the parental organism and it will form an individual organism or new organism. And this is asexual reproduction. And the newly developed organism, it will be a replica of the parent and genetically it will be identical to the parental organism. So budding is a asexual method of reproduction in that first an organism, it will develop as a small part of the parent body, then it will grow, it will attain maturity, and after that it will get separated from the parental organism and it will form a separate individual. So the newly developed organism will be an exact replica of the parental organism and genetically it will be identical. There will be genetical identity between the parental organism and the newly formed organism. And this occurs in yeast, hydra and all. This budding, it occurs in yeast, hydra and all. The daughter nuclei First, the daughter nuclei will get produced through karyokinesis, and the new individual will get separated and it form a new organism. So example for budding, hydra. This is budding in hydra. You can see here in this picture, you can see the parental hydra. This is the parental hydra. Here the bud formation is there. There is a bud formation in the side. You can see the side one bud formation and the developing bud. The second stage is the developing bud. Here the bud is getting developed, or it is in the developing stage. It is growing and there's a completely developed new bud in the next picture. You can see in the third picture, the bud is completely developed. Here it is in second picture, it is in the growing stage, but here it is a completely developed new bud. And it gets matures and after that it is getting separated. Here you can see the separated bud of hydra and this will form a new individual or new hydra. It will grow as a separate organism. So in hydra, which is an example for budding, the parental hydra, there will be a growth or developing bud or a bud formation in the side. You can see. Next is the developing bud. It started growing. The bud started growing and it is a developing bud. And the new bud that also will grow and it will attain maturity. And after attaining maturity, that will get separated from the parental body. And this new hydra, it is genetically similar. It is exactly similar to the parental hydra. There is no genetical variation between the parent and the new individual. Next example for budding is budding in yeast. In the first diagram, you can see a complete yeast cell. This is the parent cell. And in the next stage, it is developing a bud. Here you can see a developing bud. Then the karyokinesis or nuclear division. Here nuclear division you can see. It forms a nuclear division. Here new bud is formed. And the daughter nuclei will get shifted into the daughter nuclei, which is newly formed nuclei, that will get shifted into the bud. And this will grow again and it constricts at the base. Here in the basal portion, that constriction will form and it will get separated. Here you can see the chain of buds. So what is happening in the case of yeast? This is an individual cell. Then here you can see developing bud. Then karyokinesis. After that, that newly formed nucleus will move to the bud. Then here constriction will develop and after attaining maturity, it will get separated. So the bud remains attached initially to the parent cell and then it's getting separated from the parent cell after attaining maturity. So, but in this case, in the case of hydra, in the case of yeast, what is happening? The division is unequal. Here the cell is not getting divided equally. Here the division is unequal. A small portion of the cytoplasm is moving to the newly formed bud. And a portion of what? Nucleus also. Nuclear material also moving to the newly formed bud. Here the division is unequal. There is no equal division is taking place in this. And next is sporulation. Next asexual reproduction method is sporulation. In sporulation, the members of kingdom fungi and simple plants such as algae, they reproduce through special asexual reproductive structures. And the most common of these structures are zoospores. Zoospores. While teaching kingdom fungi, I taught you about zoospores and all. So usually they are microscopic motile structures. They are microscopic structures, but they are motile. And common asexual reproductive structures are conidia and gemmules. In sponge, you can see that. In conidia, it is present in penicillium. So the first one is zoospores. What are zoospores? They are asexual spores which are motile in nature. They can move. They are motile in nature and they use flagella for locomotion. Zoospores will use flagella for locomotion and they are the means of asexual reproduction. They are asexual spores and they can move with the help of flagella. Zoospores of Chlamydomonas. Zoospores of Chlamydomonas are they are the spores which are formed under unfavorable condition. During unfavorable condition, zoospores of Chlamydomonas, they are forming under unfavorable condition and they exhibit asexual reproduction and they form new plant. So, they use lateral flagella for locomotion. Chlamydomonas will use lateral flagella for locomotion. And in unicellular green algae, Chlamydomonas, they are unicellular green algae. In this, zoospore is a pyramid shape and they have flagella in the anterior side. You can see the anterior side, they have flagella and the zoospores. These are the zoospores. They are having pyramid-like structures and inside parental cell or this is the zoosporangium and so many zoospores will get formed. They have pyramid-like structures and they have flagella in the anterior side. So during zoospores formation, the parent cell act like a sporangia. The parent cell will act like a sporangia. Inside the parent cell, spores will get formed. So it will act like a sporangia and this parent cell wall will break and zoospores are getting released. So after attaining maturity, the parent cell wall, it will break and the zoospores, it will get released into water. And they have flagella. With the help of flagella, they can move. And they enlarge. This will grow. It will get enlarged and it will form a complete organism. So zoospores, the parental cell will act as a sporangium and the zoospores which are having pyramid shape with flagella in the anterior side. This flagella will help in the locomotion. And after maturity, it will get released and each zoospore will become a complete organism. Next is conidia. Conidia, they are also a type of asexual reproductive spore of fungi and usually produced at the tip or side of hyphae. And they are produced on special structures called conidiophores on which conidia are produced. And the spores, after maturity, they'll get detached and they vary in shape, size and color. And large ones or large conidia, they are called as macroconidia and the small ones are called as microconidia. You can see here conidia of penicillium. So the species of penicillium, they are recognized by their dense brush-like spore-bearing structures. Species of penicillium, we can recognize the penicillium. You can see the bread mold or such things and all. You can see the black color. This is a common one. These penicillium, they are recognized by their dense brush-like spore-bearing structures. The brush-like spore-bearing conidia. And the conidiophores are simple or branched. They may be simple or they may be branched. And they are terminated by clusters of flask-shaped conidia. Here you can see flask-shaped conidia at the end. So the spores, they are produced in dry chains. And the branching, it is important feature. For each species, branching will be different. So for penicillium species, for identifying different penicillium species, the branching is very important. Each species is having different type of branching. So up to this, asexual reproduction methods are clear. You have any doubt? Just go through this, and next fragmentation we will learn in the next class. So up to that, read all these things, go through all these portions. Okay, we'll meet in the next class. Do you have any doubt? Any slide I need to repeat? Okay, thank you. We'll meet in the next class.